Hey, Lazar, good to see your face. Glad your internet's working.
I'm not my daughter's house. They got to come tomorrow to fix it. Spectrum. I had a lot of problems with it, but I went to my daughter, so she's got internet here. So this came from shul, and I didn't want to miss.
I'm in Montana. You can see outside. It's not nighttime yet here.
Was that where you're at?
Yeah.
Oh,
here, look.
beautiful.
It's still light here. I mean, it's getting dark, but
wow, beautiful. You're way up north.
Yeah,
you going ski? Oh, beautiful. What's it? Is it a lodge?
The house. I bought a house up here. Chill out. See what happens.
Wow, beautiful.
Investment. Yeah.
Wow. Near which city?
Whitefish.
That's on
it's a Jewish city. It's a Jewish city. Whitefish.
Is that on the east or west coast of the west?
North. I'm near Canada. If you went from I'm 4.5 hours by car to Spokane.
Spokane. Oh, wow. Okay. So you're really north. You're really north. Wow.
I'm by Glacier National Park.
Oh, beautiful. That's good. That's good. So you got good skiing up there. Why? Whitefish is good skiing.
Yep.
Late in the
Not
year.
anymore. Not right now. Closed.
Oh,
but
no?
I'm gonna go for a hike in Glacier National Park tomorrow.
Oh, beautiful. Good for you.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So is it a house or a lodge you got?
Yeah, house.
Oh, beautiful.
A small house, not a house on June Street. Regular house.
Oh, is it? Is a lot of people
my
around there?
Hat. See.
Oh boy, is it a lot of people around that house around or what?
It's a neighborhood, but it's super quiet. There's not even a car that's gone down the street all day.
I'm sure you're the only Jewish person in there, huh?
There's a Chabad 10 miles away. Chabad of Kalispell. Yeah.
Kalispell, yeah. Oh, beautiful. Oh, beautiful.
You have to come visit.
I remember that when there was a guy used to come from Canada, from Montana. He was a school, he and his wife, and they used to take the train in. This goes about 45 years ago. They took the train into Seattle to go to the mikveh. And once a month he would come into Seattle, stay by my parents.
That's crazy.
He would go in. He was a school. He had to go to school in Montana. I can't remember what city it was in, but he would go in to take the train in once a month, and he would use the mikveh and go back, and that was it. But that was the price he paid to go to college in Montana. Wow. It's such a big state. We used to take the train across the country to go to Tails, and it was forever on the train to go from one end of Montana to the other. It took half the trip. Really, it took half the time.
Big state.
Yeah. A big state.
You could drive and drive and drive.
Wow. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Where'd you fly? You flew into Kalispell?
Yeah, you fly to Kalispell. I changed planes in Salt Lake City.
Oh boy.
But it was easy.
Good. Oh, good for you.
And I'm about 10 minminutes away from the airport. 15 minutes. It's nothing.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
There's no cars. There's nothing,
So you have internet there too, huh?
Oh yeah. No,
it's
nice
everything.
House.
Oh,
got
beautiful.
A fire going.
Okay, good. Yeah.
How was the biking?
Going tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
Oh, wow. You take your bike on the plane with you?
Not this trip. I'm just renting a bike.
Oh, that's good.
Because they closed the road in Glacier National Park to cars for May. So you can just bike.
Oh, boy. How high is it?
It's going to be high. It's going to be hard. But we'll see. If it's too hard, I'll come back. What can I do?
Okay. That's good. Well, good luck to you. Have a good time.
No, where's the Rebbe?
Beautiful country, too.
Oh, it's gorgeous up here.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder what I'm doing in LA.
Driving every day with all the hilarious on the street. My goodness.
Here, people, you don't even lock your car. You don't lock your doors. The only thing you have to worry about is bears getting in your garbage.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay.
I just bought bear spray for the bike ride tomorrow.
Oh, wow. That's good. Be careful. Yeah. Got a BB gun or something, or?
Nah, just bear spray.
Yeah. Okay.
It works against grizzly bears. That's all you need.
It does? Spray works against grizzly bears?
Yep.
Nothing else does.
Unless it gets them so mad they eat you,
Wow. Did you ever come across any bears?
I saw 2 bears in Glacier Park, 2 grizzlies, but not attack bears, just like more like people watching them, off the corner of the road.
Yeah. Oh, good. Oh, wow. Good. Well, enjoy. Drive, bike safely now.
Thank you.
Okay, good.
Just got somebody to sponsor a bike ride across country. Some kind of
You gonna do it?
No, I wish I couldn't do it. No, but somebody asked for a sponsorship. It's cross country. It's like 3 weeks, I think.
Yeah, at least 3 weeks.
Yeah, 3 weeks. It's for some Jewish cause, friendship something or other.
Friendship circle.
Mario tested positive for COVID.
Oh, no.
And he's not feeling well.
Oh.
That's why he called me, told me to host it. But
Wow.
Ernie.
Yes.
I don't know if I can impose tomorrow. Can we start like maybe 15 minutes later or 20 minutes later? Young Israel I don't daven Young Israel because to be here at 8, because next door they don't wait between me and Chemara, bring Israel waits. But I have Yortzeit tomorrow night, and I just want to daven Young Israel tomorrow night.
Okay, so we'll do.
We have the Tzurba tomorrow.
Yeah, the problem that we have Tzurba tomorrow night.
Oh, you have Tzurba.
So we'll have to learn at 7:30 the Daf, and then the Tzurba is to follow.
All right, so if you can dedicate it,
but it's
I'll
taped,
send you
Johnny. It's taped.
I know. So I'll ask you. I'm going to send you a text dedicated the Nishma, my father, tomorrow, please.
Okay.
Okay, would you send me a text to the?
I will send you a text.
And
Yes.
I will announce it. Absolutely.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Yeah.
So what time are we on at 7:30 tomorrow night?
7:30 for Daf. Yes.
Okay.
We're on Nun Vav 56 Amud Aleph. Echad ha'ma'arav, echad ha'goymer kana. It says whether you just have insertion of the head versus complete penetration. Excuse me. It says your koine, you acquire. Now my kana. Rav amar kana lakoil. It's regular bia, and it's considered that this woman is your wife. And the key issue here is if you're a Kohen, she can eat truma. Because if you're a Kohen who's Makadesh Abbas Yisrael, with Kiddushin alone, she cannot eat truma. Once there's Nesuin, and
break because the brother was a Kayan too. If this guy's a Kayan, the deceased brother's a Kayan. So when the guy dies,
Kenny,
is she not allowed to eat truma at that point?
Kenny, we're not there yet. Right now, we're not talking about Ibum yet. Meaning, Kana Lakol means when a Kohen gives Kiddushin to a woman.
Okay.
She's a Bas Yisrael, she can't eat Truma. When he's koines her, when he lives with her after Nesuin, then she acquires the right. Now, what kind of bia? So Rashi says, Ba'achas ben abias gruos halalu kanal l'chodover. The bia grua is like ha'ara, doing it after chlitza, right? any kind of, or be'oines or b'shgoga, all of those are not perfect biot. You didn't know it was her. You were forced to do it. You didn't penetrate fully. So Rav holds, doesn't make a difference. Kana lakol. V'oichelas betruma miyadim koinu. Afilu halach l'ndina sayam v'lo bo'ale abiyah gemura. Let's say they only had one intimate act, and then he went to China. And because we assume if he's in town, he eventually had bia gemura with her. But let's say they only had one bia, and it turns out that we found out that it was b'shogeg. For some reason, he thought this was another woman, or he forced her, or it was just ha'ara. It was just glands insertion. It doesn't make a difference according to Rav. She can eat truma.
Ernie, quick question. Ernie, this maybe you've learned this or not. It just dawned on me yesterday. For a bia to be considered a bia, do you have to be able to emit semen, or it doesn't matter?
You're able to, as long as you can emit semen, as long as you're erect. People emit semen.
No.
Even with just
What
mild
if
penetration.
you're impotent or you don't have your
No, Johnny, we learned yesterday, if you don't have an erection, you try to have intercourse with a flaccid penis, you're not chayav.
No, but what if you do have an erection, but you cannot produce semen because you don't have a prostate, for instance, you don't have semen. So what happens then?
Still, at that, initially, when that husband got married to his wife, he had semen. So then later on, after he's coined to her, he has a procedure which makes it important. Now, if he has the ducts, the vas deferens cut in the scrotum, and had a vasectomy, that's why he cannot. Now, by the way, those people emit plenty of semen because 90% of the seminal fluid comes from the prostate. It's just no.
But if you don't have a prostate, you don't have semen.
But when you have a vasectomy in the scrotum, that makes you a psuadaka, and
Right.
and lo yavo psuadaka bikal Hashem. So if, for example, he had not had children yet, and you underwent, and you find out they had a vasectomy, Beis Din would force them to divorce his wife. Now, if he had children already, so there's a shaila, would they? But there's no, prostatectomy does not divide the vas deferens in the scrotum. It divides it inside the beten. And if you go through my new sefer, you'll see pictures, descriptions of the Chazon Ish's heter, that if the vas deferens is cut on the inside, it does not make you a psuadaka. So from a psuadaka standpoint, there's no problem. Now, from an there are plenty of men that are infertile. It doesn't make their bia any less proper as bia.
But the whole idea,
they
the
don't
whole
know
idea-
that they're not infertile. A year later, after they've had intercourse, they can't have children. Infertility. So the lack of being able to have children doesn't disqualify you from your bia being considered normal bia.
no, but the whole concept of Yevama is so they can start another family for the brother. I mean,
So
to start a
if you
family.
know,
And he knows that he can't
no
procreate.
If it's impossible, like a zaken.
Yeah.
Or if
Okay.
he's a psuadaka.
Yeah.
Okay? Well, psuadaka can't marry anybody.
Right.
But if we know, if he was we had that already in the Gemara.
Oh.
If he was a saris, or if she was an islandess, there would be no yibum.
Uh-huh.
But if you can have an erection and penetrate with intercourse, so that's going to be, we don't know whether, how much fluid he has. He has fluid, not fertile.
Could be a miracle.
Say it again?
Could be a miracle. Could be a miracle.
It's well, if someone is declared even medically
Yeah.
that they completely infertile,
Yes.
but that there's no halachic, you're talking about yibum, that's a different question. That's a different question. If we know,
Yeah, that's my question. If he knows he can't
it's
have
not
children with the new wife.
if he knows, if there's some kind of medical condition.
What does it matter? As long as he pleases her sexually and he provides,
No, the whole
food,
point-
shelter.
No, it's for his
The whole
family.
point
Because
is
it says, Al
to
Shem
take the
Achiva
family.
Meis.
Oh, that's Yibum. I thought you were asking in
No,
general.
he asked about Yibum.
Yibum.
Uh-huh.
So Yibum, we dealt with the
He-
questions of Zokain, Chole. He can't have an erection because he's too old. Chole. Those people, there's no Yibum.
Yibum.
So if you know that there's some kind of medical condition, if he's like what's that XXY, a Turner syndrome
Hermaphrodite?
or Klinefelter syndrome,
Yeah.
we knew for sure there would be no Yibum. It's like an islandness in a female. Same thing. But prostatectomy is different because there you are ejaculating. Not always. Fluid doesn't come if you don't have your prostate. So there, if a Yibum situation comes in, we'd have to investigate the halacha more carefully to see.
Then maybe you're not able to do even. You have to do chalitza in that case.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Correct.
But a bia in that condition is still considered a bia.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So Shmuel says, Loikana el advarim amurim b'parsha. The ha'ara.
Yeah, Johnny, I just want to pipe in because we also said Bia Shaloka Darcha is called Bia. So there for sure.
Oh, you're right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good.
And not going to get her pregnant,
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen,
Fertile you are.
this is the sugya that we're in right now.
Yeah.
So these issues have to be discussed. I don't think
There's a lot of bekim at this year on this sugya.
Our money's worth out of Dr. Agassi.
There's a lot of bekim. It must be
it's not just
Montana.
Dr. Agustin, it was the Bucky here. It sounds like there's a lot of Bekim here, like Walter says.
What is going on here? It's a lot of bekim over here. I never heard so many bekim in the Gemara.
If a man is B'tsua Dakoi, he can't perform Yavama. He doesn't have to do Chalisa either, because we learned before, if you can't do one, you can't do the other.
Elazar, he's usher. It's usher for him to live with anybody.
No, but I'm saying you don't, so he doesn't even do Chalisa. If you can't do Yavama, you can't do Chalisa. You don't even have to go through that process of it.
It's
So-
a tour. It's like an erva. It's like an erva.
So he doesn't, the whole thing is void. The whole process is
Yeah,
void.
but remember, no, because there, a p'tua daka who gives kiddushin, the kiddushin is chal, and you would require a divorce. It's not an erva al kores.
No, but I'm saying a guy comes and for Yavama, and he's an old zokain or something, and he can't. So he doesn't even have to do chalitza. Doesn't even have to give her chalitza. If you can't do Yavama, we learned before. If you can't do one, you can't do the other.
We quoted the halacha before about zakein and about whether there's a p'tur legamre or not.
So he doesn't have to do any process. It's just nothing. It's just she's a free woman.
Well, we said it's a free woman when there's an erva. So lo yavot tzedakah is a malchus, is a law. So if a tzedakah gave a woman kiddushin, there would be kiddushin.
Right.
Now, tzedakah by yibum may be a special case because he cannot be molid, and the whole issue of yibum is holada, and therefore there may be a complete tour. We're going to get to tzedakah.
Okay.
We
So
will
therefore,
get to that
there's no even chalitza. There's not
Let's
even a
get-
chalitza.
You know what? Let's wait
Okay.
to Daf Ayin Daled, where the Gemara will deal with what is the din if the brother is a p'tua daka. We will see whether it's a p'tur. We haven't learned it yet, Elazar.
Okay.
So we can imagine that might be the din, but I would wait. What? Lirash b'nichsei achi. That means one of the side effects of yibum is that he inherits the estate of the brother that he would acquire with ha'ara alone. Ulapatra min ha'yibum. And if, let's say, Reuven died, the woman falls to Shimon. Shimon does ha'ara to the woman and then quickly dies. So as long as Shimon has sons from other of his wives, so she is an Eishes Ach that has children, and she would be potter from Yibum, right? Because now her husband died. She doesn't fall to Yibum because he had children. So the ha'ara is enough to acquire her as her husband, so that she's now officially an Eishes Ach of an Ach that had children. When she first fell from Ruvain, she was an Eishes Ach who didn't have children. So maybe the ha'ara would not be enough to, Shmuel says it's enough to acquire to pater her from any further yibum, and for him to inherit. But if he's a Kohen, we'll see in a minute, it's not going to be enough. Reuven was a Kohen, yeah, but she's got to be married to somebody. If she's a Bas Yisrael, she doesn't need Kohen Truma unless she's married to a Kohen. Her husband died. Normally now, there's a Zika to Shimon. So the question is ha'ara going to be enough? So Rav says yes, but Shmuel says no. When it comes to the Yibum situation, it will not be enough. And it won't be enough if he's a regular Kohen trying to marry her. Now, the Gemara analyzes. Min anesuna divrei kol achla. Now, if Ruvain was a Kohen and she was eating truma, and Ruvain died, now Shimon's also a Kohen and did ha'ara, and he died. Excuse me. When he had any kind of bia with her, Shimon, even ha'ara, that's enough to keep her eating truma, because she was already eating truma. The havaka achla mikar, she was eating already. Ki pligi minai rusin. The machlokas between Rav and Shmuel here is Ruvain was married to this woman only with kiddushin. When you have kiddushin, she doesn't eat truma yet. Then Ruvain died, so she's a widow from Erusin, and Shimon did ha'ara to her only. And she had not been eating truma from before. Rav Amar Chelas. Rav says that's okay. He did a bia. It's a bia grua, but still a bia. The Harabi Rachmana bia shorge kamezi. Ha'ara is like Gmar bia, and therefore that's enough for Rav. Shmuel Amar Ki Rabbi Rachmana lo k'mi b'makom baal. But lalume mibalo, to make it stronger than this, Reuven himself, he stands in the place of the husband. The husband never fed her truma, and therefore, because she was only married to him with kiddushin. So if Shimon, who was a Kohen, like Kenny said, had done real bia to her, so in a chanami she could start eating truma, but he didn't do real bia. He did this bia grua, the ha'ara only. So that's not enough to allow her to eat truma. Oz the Shmuel tamei. And Shmuel is consistent. Amar Shmuel. Kol shaba machil yavi machil. If the husband fed her truma, then the yavim feeds her truma. Kol sheina ba machil yavim eno machil. Period. Meitzvei. Bas Yisrael pikches. Shenis arsel kohen pikech. A normal Bas Yisrael who doesn't eat truma is given kiddushin by Kohen, who's also an intelligent Kohen. V'lo he speak lakonsa ashen ischarish. Then he becomes a deaf mute. A deaf mute lacks das. And then they go to the chuppah and he lives with her, and when he's a cheresh. Eina ochelas. So the bia of a Kohen who has no das is also a bia grua, is a weak bia, and therefore does not cause her to eat truma. And this guy mates the nafla lifnei yavim cheresh. Shimon is also a deaf mute. Ocheles. He can, because when he marries her, uvezu yafa kocha yavim mikocha bal. This is an example where a yavim has more koyach than the original bal. Rashi says, "The loigara bias cheresh me bias shoyge guznus voinus shein miskavin likos." Remember, by yibum, any kind of bia is koine. That's why the bia of the yavim, even if he's not a bardas, works better than if it's not a yibum situation. There, you need regular bia. So bishlam ala Rav Nicha. So that works according to Rav that says even a bia grua is koine akol. El Shmuel Kasha. It's a problem for Shmuel, who said that it's not the Yavim doesn't have more power than the Baal. Shmuel learned if the Baal was Machil Truma, then the Yavim can be Machil Truma. But if the Baal was not, the Yavim cannot have more power than the Baal, and yet this Paraisa is a steer to Shmuel. Below you speak the first husband had not done chuppah v'kiddush chuppah until he became a deaf mute. Ein ocheles betruma. However, konos v'achar kach nischaresh. If the kohen was a pikech when he lived with her, who cared? Then later on he became a deaf mute. Ocheles. Then meis v'nafel v'nayavim cheresh ocheles. It's that case. Shmuel is going to learn that once she was eating from the first Baal, because he was a pikech when he lived with her, that's when, if he dies and goes to the Yavim, was also cheresh oichelas. Umay bezu the ilu Baal cheresh mikara loy oichelas, because if the Baal was a cheresh in the beginning, he would not have caused her to eat truma. Ilu Yavim cheresh mikara achla. So that's the first version how Shmuel gets out of the kasha. There's going to be another version where Shmuel doesn't get out of the kasha. Everybody holds that if Ruvain had been married, Ruvain was a Kohen, and had been only given her kiddushin, and then he died, even Rav says that if Shimon the Kohen did ha'ara only to this woman, it's not enough, because she had not eaten before. She had never eaten when her husband was alive. If she's an almonim and anesuin, Rav says that if Shimon did ha'ara, she can eat the ha'ava achla meikar. She was eating before. When did the Torah say by Yibum the bia of a shoygig is like mezid lidvama more in parsha, only Yerusha, and that she doesn't have to follow Yibum to other people. Avalakol mili, all these other things like feeding truma low. Then you need a real bia. If the Baal can be machil, the Yavim can be machil. So ema kol bia shabal machil bo Yavim machil bo. Kol bia shena bal machil bo ena Yavim machil bo. So we're going to ask a kasha on Shmuel. Meisvi bas Yisrael pikish nisras lekoin pikach lo yispik lekoin tzach nischash eino chelas. That if the first husband, when he had a bia with her, he was a deaf mute, she doesn't need truma, and then meis v'nafel v'nayab and cheresh chelas. But if Ruvain dies and Shimon does ha'ara, because that kind of bia acquires no matter what. V'zu yafakach yavim bal bisham al Rav mitartz kidatartz mikar. Rav explains it. But Ellen Shmuel kasha, and here kasha, Shmuel doesn't get out of the kasha. Don Rabbonim. Bas Yisrael pikish nisras lekoin pikech. You have a regular Bas Yisrael who normally doesn't eat truma, was given kiddushin by a kohen. V'lo yispik lekoin tzach nischash, then he became deaf mute, and then he lived with her. Eino echelas. She doesn't eat. Noiled laben. But now she has a son. So she eats because of her son, the kohen. Meis haben. If the son dies, Rav Nosson oimer oichelas. Rav Nosson says he can continue to eat because she's married to the kohen. Chachamim oimer eina oichelas. My time, Rav Nosson, Amar Rabba Hoil shekvar achla. She ate before. So, Amar le'abaya l'me'ata bas Yisrael shenisis l'kohen umisle. I don't understand. A regular bas Yisrael who marries a kohen and then he dies. Teichul? We know that she has to go back to her father's house and she's not allowed to eat truma anymore. Why don't we use the same svara? She ate. In the previous case, she ate because the son was alive. So we say because she ate before, let her continue eating. So Abai says, well, why should we say that? We don't say that just because a woman ate while she was married to the kohen, now he dies, she should continue eating. Shekvar achla. Ela kiven de mislay pakalei kedush demino. We say over there, since her husband the kohen has died, there's no kedusha anymore to allow her to eat truma. Hachanami, the son, kiven de mislay pakal kedush demine. So how do you explain Rav Nosson who says oicheles? Ela Amar Rav Yosef k'sover Rav Nosson nesui cheresh machilim betruma. He says that when a cheresh does bia to the wife, it's machil betruma. The kitsha kishu pikeach machilin betruma. That means, since when the kohen gave her kiddushin, he was a pikeach. Fine, the bia was when he was a cheresh. Di midoraisa mishasei riusin ochelas. Really, min Torah, she should eat from the moment the kohen gives her kiddushin. Why? I'm reading Rashi. The kohen kiyikna nefesh kinyan kaspo hu yochel bo miyad. It's only Rabbananu de Gazri. The Rabbanan made a gzeira that women who get kiddushin from a kohen should not eat truma. Ad shetichnas l'chuba mishum gzeira shem yemazena lakois bebeis aviyah v'chashka lachiyah v'lamoisa. That means we're concerned that if a Bas Yisrael is allowed to eat truma the moment she gets kiddushin, her husband's going to give her a cup of wine of truma. She's going to take it back to her father's house. They're going to be chayiv misa for eating truma as zorim. Kidarina b'ksuvas ba'afal pi hilkach kiven dahai b'shas kinya have ben das. Since when this kohen gave her kiddushin, he was a ben das. V'hashech nisa l'chupa. Now, fine, he was nebach a cheresh when he lived with her. The lekel makes her shematishke, but there's no gzeir anymore because she doesn't go back to her father's house. Achla. So Rav Nosson says she can continue eating. Lo gazrina nisui cheresh atu kiddushay cheresh. The lav bar kinyanu. And they did not make a gzeira. Maybe if you allow this, you'll allow it when a cheresh gives kiddushin. However, Rabban and the Osri gazrin nisui cheresh davi ben das b'shas kizus and otech the kachik shu cheresh. The Chacham actually make that gzeir because they're worried about giving kiddushin when he was a cheresh as well. So, Elam Rav Yosef, some Rav Nosson nesui cheresh machilin b'trum. The lo gazrin nesui cheresh atu kiddushin cheresh. Fantastic sugya. Amar le'Abaye iachi noidel laben lamali. Based on this, why did you have to say noiled laben? She eats. According to Rav Nosson, he can feed her truma without noiled laben. So the Gemara says mishum rabbanon, because the rabbanon agreed that if noiled laben she can eat. Frightful more of a liflik Rav Nosson alayu bereisha. So, but then Rav Nosson should have argued in the beginning where it talks about noiled laben. Shavik l'Rabbanan ad demisami milsali. He waited until the Rabbanan finished their sheet. Of other poligalayu. So ihachi listening meisa ben ein ocheles Rav Nosson omer ocheles. You should have spelled out the machlokas in both places. Kasha in Chanami. It should have said it that way, but it didn't say it that way, so it's a kasha. The chayna bo'abak al kol arayos. We said you're chayiv with ha'ara, any kind of bia, for any kind of the ariases. On Rav Amram HaMil Samar Lon Rav Sheshes, Van Hidden Leinim Mastisen, and he opened up our eyes for a Mishnah. Eishes Yisrael Shenensa. Afal Pisha Muteres L'Bayla Psula L'Kuhuna. Person's wife gets raped, Chas v'Shalom. So normally, if an Eishes Ish is mezana, if commits adultery, her husband's not allowed to live with her anymore. Now here, a foreign man lived with this Eishes Ish, but it was done against her will. So you're allowed to stay married to her. So Afal Pisha Muteres L'Bayla though Psula L'Kuhuna. If, let's say, the husband dies, so she's an almana. Normally, an almana can marry a Kohen, but she's a halachic zona because she had a bia be'isser as an Eishes Ish. Fine, it was against her will, but it makes her a halachic zona. And that's the halacha that the Rambam brings. Tanatuna, anybody who has relations with any of those ariases that are prohibited makes her halachic zona. And therefore, if those people, husbands died, they could not marry kohen. O psulos. Or if they married psulos, like mamzerim, ninsinim. Now, my v'chein. What is this additional v'chein? My love lo yishna b'shogig, lo yishna b'meziv, lo yishna b'oinetz, lo yishna b'ratzon. It makes no difference what kind of bee it was. Uktani posla. And it says very clearly it postles them. So a bee of any kind, even with oinetz. So the Gemara seems to have a proof to this concept of Eish Yisrael Shenensa Psula L'Kuhuna. Gemara says, lo, my v'chein ahara. We're talking about the case of insertion of the glands only, that postles. That's the v'chein. Now, hahara deman. Who did the hahara? Ilema darayas. So, lemema darayas alfinim yavama. We learn yavama from arayas, not arayas from yavama. Adarabba, Yavama Yalfinam Arayas, the Ikar Arab Arayas Ksiv. The fact that a Yavama can be acquired through Ara, we learned that from Arayas. Elamai V'chein, Ashalok Kedarka da Arayas. When there's Bia Shalok Kedarka. What do you mean Adarabba? Ikar Mishkavei Yishav Arayas Ksiv. The fact that multiple ways of living with a woman is called Mishkavei Yishav, that's written by Arayas, it's not by Yavama. Elamai V'chein, Ashalok Kedarka da Chayvei Lavin. Meaning, doesn't say clearly by the Chavei Lavin, like Almana L'Koin Gadol, Grusha V'chlutz L'Koin Headed. There doesn't say Mishkavei Isha. But we don't need Ha'ara there, because they learned it from Kicha Kicha. So therefore, the din that you passel Almana L'Koin Gadol, Grusha V'chlutz L'Koin Headed, with Ha'ara is learned from the V'chein. Amar Rava. Eishes Koyin Shenensa. So a Kohen's wife gets raped. He can't live with his wife. But let's say he does. So he gets Malchus for Zoina, because she's a halachic zona. Mishum zona in, mishum tuma lo. But it says a woman who, an Eishes Ish who was slept with, she becomes matame. So Kohen should get Malchus for being exposed to tuma. Ema af mishum zona. He gets 2 Malchuses.
Ernie,
Yes,
a woman who got raped, it's an oinus.
correct.
Oinus Rachmana Patre. How come by?
She's not put to death.
No.
Oinus
But
Rachmana Patre refers to the punishment that an Eishes Ish that's mezana, the boil and her are killed. But Oinus Rachmana Patre, she was forced, so she's not killed. But
Yeah, but
her
so
status, Her status makes her halachic zona. She can't avoid that because the bia was done be'isr. So her husband can live with her because of Yisrael, there's no lav of zona. But a Kohen, it says, Ishachal lav of zona lo ikachu in Emor.
Yeah,
So
but
a Kohen can't live with
it's
a
a very
zona.
harsh punishment. She can't get any more mezoinas from him. She can't get the truma. She can't get anything.
You're talking about when a Kohen wife is raped?
Yeah.
That's the din. He's forced to divorce her. She gets her ksuba. If it was an oinus, she would get her ksuba if it was a rape. They wouldn't cause a divorce without a ksuba in that case. If she's mizaneh, she doesn't get her ksuba.
I understand, but this is an oines. She's like a complete oines here.
But it's a mitzias in her status.
I understand. It's a change in status for her because she's married to a Kohen.
Correct.
I understand that, but it's very difficult to it's difficult to understand.
How about a woman the Yavim who rapes the Yavama becomes an Eishes? She didn't want it. Her status has changed. The Bia does it. The same thing there. The fact that she had Bia with a fremde man, with an Ish Zar, made her a halachic zona. And she's a halachic zona when she's living with the husband Yisrael. But the husband Yisrael has no lav of living with halachic zona. Just like we have no lav of going into a cemetery. Kohen does. It's the same thing. We have no lav to be metame. A Kohen has a lav to be metame. Okay. Mostly Rav Zera, it says v'hilo nispasa. The woman who was not forced, asura. Hanispasa muteres. She was raped against her will, she's mutter. V'yesh lecha acheres shavu pish nispasa asura. But there's another woman, maybe they were bothered like Walter is bothered, that even though she was raped, still asura. Ve'ezu zueshes kohen. However, v'lava b'michlal asay, asay. It's not a lav. So there is no extra malchus. On Rava, hakol ayu bichlal zoyna. If by an Eishes Yisrael who's mezaneh, she's not forced, it says asura, hanispasa muteres, michlal the Eishes kohen kidekayma kayma. But an Eishes kohen remains the way she is. And the Isra Zoyna does not go away. The Rambam says, Eishes kohen shenensa or shezinsa bishgaga asur labayla. That's it. There's no appeal. Omer vikidami omer Rabba Eishes kohen shenensa bala loikala mishum tuma. Meaning mishum tuma in mishum zoyna lo. Alma ba'oinus lo karina bezona. Mashma that with rape she's not called a zona. Maser Rav Zera. V'ilo nispasa. She wasn't forced. Asura. Han nispasa. She was forced muteres. V'yesh lacharish shavu b'nispasa asura. There's another person. Even she was forced. She's asur ve'ezuzu eishes kohen. But the lava b'mechlal say, but it's not a lav. It's not say. On Rava. Hakol ayu b'chlal achrei shehu tama. Everybody was in the parsha becoming tummy. And she remains a zona. And there's Isser Tuma. So the lav of lo yashuv lekachta remains. Mishnah. Almana l'kohen gadol. Almana can't marry kohen gadol. Grusha v'chlutz l'kohen hedyim and ayrusin. Let's say somebody been married with kiddushin only and got divorced, and a kohen married her. Yoichlu b'truma.
Lo yochlo.
That means the kohen hedyim and ayrusin.
Lo yachlu.
Lo yoichlu. Almana marries a kohen gadol. And a kohen hedyot marries a grusha only with kiddushin. They didn't have relations with them yet. And they were Benois Kohanim who were eating truma from their father's house. They don't eat truma anymore because they became a chalala. An almana makes, a Kohen Gadol lives with an almana, she becomes a chalala. She can't eat truma anymore. And a Kohen lives with a grusha, even with kiddushin, even without bia, makes them a chalala. However, Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon Machshirin, Rabbi Elazar says, listen, they didn't get lived with, it was only kiddushin. So they can still eat kiddushin in their father's house. The aver is only done if they have bia. Nis armalu o niskar.
But we know that a chalutza makes usher a kohen too. In other words, a woman who doesn't even have any kind of a kedushin.
We're talking about a case of let's say Reuven and Shimon, and Reuven is married to a Bas Kohen. She was eating truma when she was living with her father's house. They didn't have any children. Reuven dies. These are not Kohanim. She's a Bas Kohen. Now, Shimon gives her chlitza. And a Kohen is not allowed to marry a chlutza. So a Kohen gives her kiddushin. So that is an aveira, which according to Tanakama prevents her from continuing to eat truma from her father's house.
Oh, so she can't go back, yeah.
Rabbi Elazar says she can still eat it until he actually lives with her and commits the aveira. The aveira is not with kiddushin according to Rabbi Elazar Rabbi Shimon, it's only with nesui. Now, nis armalu o nis garshu. If they became widowed or divorced from these Kohanim, if they had married them, so they had committed the Avera, then psulos, and they would not be able to eat truma. But minayrus and ksheros, if the Kohen gave kiddushin to a grusha, and then then he died. So she goes back, she's kosher to eat truma. Rab Meir apostles them when the guys are still alive, because mishtameres labia psula is a problem. They're in waiting for a bia psula. But once the guy who is psula to them, the grusha to the Kohen to the grusha, if the Kohen dies, then they can go back to their father's house and eat truma. Tanya Reb Meir Kal v'chomer. U'makdusha rishus ein machilin. A Bas Kohen who's eating truma, if a pasha to Yisrael gives her kiddushin, she can't eat truma anymore. Kiddushi aver lo kol sheken. So kiddushin that was done from a Kohen to a grusha certainly should prevent them from eating truma. That's what Reb Meir. That's why Reb Meir says lo yachlu b'truma, even though it's only kiddushin. So Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Shimon says Amar lo im amet b'kiddushi rishus. Shekain ein lo lachil b'makom acher. A regular Yisrael cannot feed her truma. He doesn't have the ability to do that. Toimer b'kiddushi aver shekain yesh lo lachil b'makom acher. So you can't learn the same way a Kohen who marries a regular woman can feed her truma. This one can't, but he has the ability to feed truma somewhere else. You can't compare it to a case of Yisrael giving kiddushin. You have a Kohen who had a vasectomy, and he gives kiddushin to a Bas Yisrael. He's not allowed to have beer with her. Banu lemachlokes Rav Meir, Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon. Li Rav Meir, the Amr Mishtamesh Lebi Psula, the Raisa Lo Achla, Hanami Lo Achla. This kohen who gave kiddushin, she is oimed to a bia psula because he's not allowed to have bia with her. The next step it would be chuppah with bia, and she's being watched for a bia psula. I mean, the Raisa, he would not be able to feed her truma. So here Nami also lo yachla. If a psula daka kohen gave kiddushin to Bas Yisrael, according to Rab Meir, because she's mishtameres lebia psula. The Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Shimon, the Abri mishtameres lebia psula the Raisa achla. According to them, a psula daka kohen who gave kiddushin to a Bas Yisrael could feed her truma. Hanami achla. The halacha is psula daka kohen shekidush bas kohen. Also, even a bas kohen who was eating truma, the kiddushin, because she's mishtameres lebia psula, stops her from eating truma. We'll go into this a little bit more tomorrow. Nice, very difficult sugyas, but
Beautiful.
that's Yevamos.
Good night.
Okay, tomorrow, 7:30.